What if everything you've ever decided, every choice, every belief, even the way you feel about yourself, wasn't entirely your own? What if, right now, without you even realizing it, someone is pulling your strings like a puppet master in the shadows? This isn't paranoia. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This is the chilling reality of manipulation, an invisible force woven into the fabric of everyday life. It's in the way your boss convinces you to work late. Again. It's in the way a lover makes you question your own memories. It's in the ads that whisper just the right words to make you click buy now, even when you swore you wouldn't. Manipulators don't wear masks. They don't announce themselves. They operate in the quiet spaces between words, in the subtle shifts of emotion, in the unspoken rules of power. And the most terrifying part? By the time you realize what's happening, it's often too late. You're already trapped in a toxic relationship, a draining job, a belief system that isn't yours. But what if you could see the strings? The silent weapons people use to control you without you ever knowing. That's what this is about. Not fear, not helplessness, but awakening. Because once you see the game, you can't be played. So lean in close, pay attention, because by the end of this, nothing will look the same again. Imagine this. You're in a conversation and without warning, the mood shifts. The other person's voice softens, their eyes lock onto yours, and suddenly you feel it. A strange, almost magnetic pull to agree with them, to please them, even if something deep inside you hesitates. What just happened? You've been touched by the invisible hand of manipulation. It doesn't always look sinister. Sometimes it's wrapped in kindness, a favor that comes with unspoken strings. Other times it's hidden in urgency, in the way a salesperson leans in and says, "This deal expires in 5 minutes." But beneath the surface, the machinery is always the same, exploiting the very wiring of your brain. Think about the last time you felt guilty for saying no. That wasn't an accident. Guilt is one of manipulation's favorite tools, a lever pulled to make you comply. Studies in social psychology reveal that humans are hardwired to avoid social discomfort, to seek approval, to reciprocate gestures. And manipulators? They know this. They count on it. Then there's fear, the oldest trick in the book. A politician warns of looming disaster unless you vote a certain way. A partner subtly suggests no one else would ever love you. These aren't just words. They're psychological triggers, activating the primal parts of your brain that scream, "Do something. Fix this," before logic even has a chance to step in. But here's where it gets even darker. Some of the most effective manipulators don't just use your emotions, they rewire them. Take gaslighting, for example. It starts small. You're overreacting. That never happened. Over time, the victim's own mind becomes the enemy, doubting memories, instincts, even sanity. It's not just persuasion, it's psychological erosion. And yet, the most unsettling truth? Many manipulators aren't even aware they're doing it. They've learned these tactics from parents, partners, or society itself. A cycle of control passed down like an heirloom. So the next time you feel that strange tug in your chest, the one that says give in when your gut screams run, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, who's really in control here? Because once you understand the game, you can change how it's played. Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone when an ad pops up. Only 3 left in stock. Your pulse quickens. Your finger hovers over the buy now button. But here's the question. Did you actually want this? Or did they make you want it? This is the art of manipulation in action. So subtle you barely notice, so powerful you can't resist. Let's start with love bombing, a tactic so intoxicating it feels like magic. One day, someone showers you with affection. Endless texts, gifts, declarations of soulmate connections. It's overwhelming, addictive. And that's exactly the point. Psychologists found this is how cults recruit members, how toxic partners trap their victims by flooding the brain with dopamine until critical thinking shuts down. By the time the mask slips, you're already hooked, chasing that first high while they slowly tighten the leash. Then there's gaslighting, the psychological equivalent of slowly turning down the lights while whispering, "It's always been this dark." Imagine recounting a fight to your partner, only to have them smirk and say, "That never happened. You're imagining things." At first, you brush it off, but repeat it enough. Studies show victims start distrusting their own memories, relying entirely on the manipulator's version of reality. It's not just lying, it's dismantling someone's grip on truth itself. Now consider the foot-in-the-door technique, a sinister trick hiding in plain sight. A coworker asks for a tiny favor. Can you just proofread this real quick? Of course you say yes. Then it's, since you're already helping, soon you're doing their entire project while they take credit. Social experiments prove this works with terrifying consistency. Get someone to agree to something small, and their brain rewires to see themselves as the kind of person who helps. Saying no later feels like betraying their own identity. But what about when they go big first? That's the door-in-the-face strategy. A teenager begs to borrow the car for a weekend road trip. When you refuse, they settle for just Saturday night. Suddenly, that feels reasonable, even though you'd never have agreed initially. Researchers found people are 300% more likely to comply with moderate requests after rejecting extreme ones. It's psychological judo, using your own resistance against you. Ever met someone who always plays the victim? That's triangulation, a 3-player mind game. They'll sigh to you. Everyone says you're being too harsh on me. Suddenly, you're not just disagreeing with them, you're fighting invisible critics. There may be no everyone, but the doubt creeps in anyway. Narcissists and workplace manipulators excel at this, creating imaginary allies to isolate their targets. Then there's the scarcity trap, that gut-punch fear of missing out. Limited edition, exclusive access, selling fast. Neurologist confirms scarcity triggers the same panic circuits as physical danger. Casinos know it when they flash jackpot rising. Retailers know it with almost sold out notifications. And once that primal fear kicks in, rational thought checks out. But perhaps the most dangerous technique is silent punishment, the art of making you beg for basic decency. Give the cold shoulder for minor slights. Withhold affection until you apologize for things you didn't do. Psychology studies on lab rats show even intermittent rewards, like random kindness between cruelty, create the strongest addictions. Now imagine that applied to human relationships, and you'll understand why people stay in toxic dynamics, forever chasing crumbs of approval. Here's what ties all these tactics together. They don't work by force. They work by invasion, by hijacking your brain's natural wiring for trust, reciprocity, and social harmony. The greatest trick manipulators ever pulled? Making you think you're in control right up until the moment you realize you never were. But here's the twist. Seeing these patterns is like putting on glasses for the first time. Suddenly, the blurry shapes snap into focus. That generous friend who keeps you indebted. The partner who just worries by tracking your location. The boss who dangles promotions like carrots. The game becomes visible. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Picture this. You're sitting in a meeting when your boss slides a document toward you. Just sign here, they say with a smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes. Standard procedure. But something prickles at the back of your neck. That document? It gives away rights you didn't know you had. That smile? It's the same one they wore last quarter when cutting underperforming staff. This isn't just business. It's psychological warfare disguised as routine. Consider the restaurant manager who tests new servers by accidentally shorting their tips. Those who complain get fewer shifts. Those who stay quiet, they've just proven they'll tolerate being cheated. It's not about the money, it's about identifying who can be controlled. Studies show this exact tactic is used in workplaces worldwide to filter out troublemakers and cultivate compliant workers. Then there's the romantic partner who begins every argument with, "I don't want to fight," before launching precisely targeted emotional strikes. Notice how the words say peace while the tone declares war. That's strategic ambiguity, keeping you perpetually off balance, never quite sure if you're being loved or manipulated. Relationship experts call this Schrodinger's abuse, simultaneously harmless and harmful until you react. Social media platforms have perfected even darker arts. That notification ping you can't ignore? Scientifically calibrated to trigger dopamine spikes stronger than slot machines. The people you may know suggestions? Engineered to resurrect past relationships better left buried. Every scroll, every like, every second you linger is tracked, analyzed, and used to manipulate your behavior with terrifying precision. But perhaps the most insidious examples live in plain sight. The limited time offer that's always available. The scientific breakthrough product using meaningless jargon. The charity that spends 80% of donations on administrative costs. These aren't mistakes. They're carefully constructed psychological traps exploiting our hardwired tendencies to trust, to reciprocate, to follow the herd. The truly frightening part? These manipulators aren't mustache-twirling villains. They're the colleague who jokingly undermines your confidence, the family member who weaponizes guilt, the system that rewards compliance and punishes critical thinking. They blend in so well because they've studied human nature like predators learning prey patterns. Yet here's what they don't want you to realize. Every one of these schemes shares a fatal flaw. They rely on you not paying attention, on accepting surfaces without probing depths, on mistaking discomfort for doubt rather than the warning signal it truly is. Because once you start seeing the patterns, the strategic pauses, the manufactured urgency, the emotional bait and switch, their power evaporates. The magician's tricks become obvious, the strings become visible. And that's when everything changes. There's a moment, a split second, when your stomach tightens, your breath catches, and something primal whispers, "This isn't right." Maybe it's when a friend's joke lands like a knife. Maybe it's when a partner's apology feels more like an accusation. That moment? That's your instinct screaming through the fog. The question is, do you listen? Because here's the truth. Your brain is already wired to detect manipulation. You just have to learn its language. Start with the body. When someone's words say, "Trust me," but your palms sweat, your pulse races, your shoulders tense, that's not anxiety. That's your nervous system recognizing danger before your conscious mind catches up. Polygraph experts call this the truth bias breakdown. When someone's body betrays their lies in micro-expressions, in too long eye contact, in forced smiles that don't reach their eyes. So next time your skin crawls in a conversation, don't dismiss it. Interrogate it. Then there's the gaslighting antidote, the paper trail. When Lauren started recording conversations with her manipulative partner, she wasn't being paranoid. She was building a reality anchor. Psychologists recommend this exact tactic for victims of gaslighting. Write down events right after they happen. Save texts. Trust timestamps over shifting memories, because manipulators rely on your doubt, but they can't argue with a receipt. Now, let's talk about the most powerful weapon you're not using, the pause. When a car salesman says this offer expires today, when a lover demands prove you care by doing this, when a boss implies real team players stay late, freeze, step back. Ask one devastating question. Why the rush? Manipulation crumbles under scrutiny. Stanford studies show that even a 17-second delay before deciding reduces susceptibility to coercion by 40%. Time is the kryptonite of pressure tactics. But what about the subtle stuff? The guilt trips, the backhanded compliments, the "I'm just worried about you" control. That's where gray rocking comes in. Imagine you're a dull, uninteresting stone. No emotional reactions, no juicy drama to exploit. Just, I'll think about it, that's an interesting perspective. Narcissists and emotional vampires feed on your engagement, so starve them. And then there's the nuclear option, the boundary. Not the polite, maybe next time kind. The kind that comes with consequences. If you continue yelling, "I will leave this conversation." If my work is credited to you again, I'll escalate to HR. Here's the brutal part. Manipulators will test it. They'll cry, rage, play victim. But hold the line just once and something extraordinary happens. They either respect the boundary or reveal their true colors by crossing it. Either way, you win. But the ultimate defense? Self-worth. Because every con artist, every emotional predator, every master manipulator on Earth shares one target. People who secretly wonder, do I deserve better? Therapy offices are filled with survivors who say the same thing. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't trust myself enough to believe it. So here's your armor. That gut feeling that says, this isn't love, it's possession. The voice that whispers, this isn't help, it's control. The part of you that already knows when you're being played. The strings were never invisible. You just needed to adjust your vision. Now look around, listen closer, feel for the tug, and ask yourself, who's holding the scissors? So here's the unsettling truth. You will be manipulated again. Maybe tomorrow, maybe today. It's waiting in your inbox, woven into a conversation, hidden behind a smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. But here's the difference now. You'll see it coming. This isn't about paranoia. It's about power, the kind that comes when you recognize the puppet strings for what they are. When a guilt trip tries to hijack your choices, you'll feel the hook before it sets. When gaslighting tries to rewrite your reality, you'll clutch the truth like a lifeline. That voice in your head that whispers something's off? It's been there all along. Now you know to listen. The most dangerous lie manipulators tell isn't "trust me." It's "you're powerless." But today that illusion shatters. Because once you know how the trick works, the magician loses his power. So go ahead, look differently at the next too good to be true offer, the next emotional ultimatum, the next just this once favor. The game hasn't changed. But you have. And that's how revolutions begin. Not with fists, but with awareness. Not by cutting strings, but by realizing, with icy, electrifying clarity, that you were never the puppet in the first place. You were the one holding the scissors all along. Now, what will you cut first?